Howdy peeps, hope everyone's doing well. It's been a little while since I've done a video, and granted the only ones that are available at the moment are the, or at least on the channel, the ones to do with narcissistic personality disorder and people with said traits. So some of you might have been following me for long enough now to know that I've covered many topics, including the topics that MGTOW, or Men Going Their Own Way, cover. You know, one of the things that I think has to be said, it really does irritate me, is that people more often than not just assume that that is the stance you take and that is the stance you stay at. You know, the whole no cohabitation, no marriage, no kids, and then that you believe everything that you talk about as a MGTOW. It's not the case. It frustrates me no end sometimes when people just think, oh yeah, you're just a misogynist because blah blah blah. Insert reasons here. And it's like, well, doesn't necessarily mean that the individual content creator, whether it's myself or whoever is talking about them, literally believes them down to the core and doesn't see any room for improvement or changes to be made where necessary. But then you're going to get the other sort of side of that crowd where they go, well, you're not a real MGTOW then. And start crying about how they're much more MGTOW than you because whatever. But what we'll talk about is dating in 2020. And I've been on a couple of different dating apps. I've got to say, finding potential is difficult. And then I came across this particular profile, which did it stood out a little bit, and it sort of made me think. You know, these are topics that MGTOW talk about. And this chick, she's in her 30s, and she's, as part of her headline, as it were, is, I have kids, run. Now you see, when even the women are saying stuff like that, you know what I mean? It's like, well, at that point, it doesn't matter that the guys are saying it. The women are saying it. But maybe context is a thing with that. I don't know. So let's talk a bit about this particular one. Well, usual sort of thing. Hobbies, that kind of a thing. I mean, this particular chick is a gamer and she likes box sets. And then, I don't know, maybe this is being done, I'd like to think it's being done mostly for shits and giggles. But actually what she's looking for is someone to hold a GoPro and film her treasure finds with the magnet fishing gear she bought on a whim and never used after watching one too many YouTube videos. Someone to eat tacos with. My kids don't like them, and the pack makes far too many for just one person, or myself as it says. I tried, it didn't end well. Someone who isn't afraid of swearing. I can swear, I can make a sailor blush, and seeing her swearing is frowned upon at work. It's like verbal diarrhea when I get back. A guy that won't hold it against me that I play Fortnite and Roblox regularly but avoid Call of Duty. A guy that has banter and is not offended easily. Someone that realises that 2 kids plus full-time work equals no, I can't meet tonight because I need to plan a sitter and probably need a nap first. But this is just it. And, you know, from being a content creator as far as MGTOW was concerned, did I ever say anything different? No. No, I didn't. And this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. It's like, it just really gets on my nerves when people start saying, oh yeah, well, you're a misogynist. It's like, well, look, even the women are saying it. Even the women are saying, look, we can't devote as much time to you as what we'd like to because they have responsibilities elsewhere. Now, some guys really do take that shit to heart. You know, they just, I don't know, it's maybe just ever demanding. I mean, for me, it's never been much of an issue, if I'm honest. It's just sort of like, well, it kind of is what it is. You either accept it or you don't. You know, you got the choice. And it's, this is what people are faced with. Like, realistically, I mean, this chick's in her early 30s. I mean, a lot of the time now, on a lot of these dating sites, you're finding chicks in their mid-20s with 1 or 2 kids. And I'm not saying that there's a problem with having kids. There's not. At the same, it's like, in some cases, some women do choose to, if you'll excuse the expression, weaponize their kids and make it their excuse as to why, they can't find a decent guy. But then here is the problem. Sometimes, bearing in mind I have been covering a lot about personality disorders, and I just got to say this from this point on so that you guys and girls, the listeners, can actually understand where I'm coming from. Having kids is a very special thing, especially if you're the parent. I mean, I can't say I fully understand it because I'm not a parent, obviously. And that one, just on a kind of a side note, I do actually question as to whether kids, for me, is even a good idea in the first place. It's something that I've thought about because, you listen to a bit of Jordan Peterson and he's saying shit like, well, you get into your 40s and you realise that you haven't got a family, so you haven't achieved much. It's like, no, I've achieved plenty, and I fortunately haven't been caught in that little trap. And I'm not saying that like having kids is a trap. In some aspects, it kind of is. Like I said, some women, for some unknown reason, do. Well, we know what the unknown reason is. It's usually financial gain more than anything. And before anyone gets offended, if the shoe fits, then wear it. But if it don't fit, then obviously, you're the exception and not the rule. But that in itself is a difficult kind of situation because some people just want to be offended all the time, right? But digressing back, it is, I get it. The kids are important. And so they have to make correct decisions based on not only what is right for them, but what is right for or not what is, but who is, should I say, who is right for them and who is right for their kids. And yeah, if you combine someone that has potential for a personality disorder, bearing in mind that these people can't take any form of criticism whatsoever, even if you put it in the nicest of ways, they just can't take it. It's like their ego goes into complete overdrive knee-jerk reaction mode, and you just cop it, don't you? You get both barrels, so to speak. So you can't do a great deal with that. And unfortunately, that is one of them things is, people can often hide who they really are for the first 90 days. And it's also a case of looking out for red flags and all of that, with, as far as people with personality disorders is concerned, check them out in their lies, Again, it's, even the problem with that is they do give you a certain amount of truth amongst all the lies just to make them believable. This is the problem with it. This is why, in some aspects, it's so hard to identify them. But yeah, I mean, how do you even date in 2020 when, like I say, that the majority of these chicks are, they're having to be responsible in terms of looking after their kids and that. And at the same time, they want to have a romantic life, a social life, as it were. And I've got to say that, it's got to be difficult. It's got to be. I mean, you can't just, drop the kids a moment's notice and just go off out and do what you want. You've got all that to consider still. So, but yeah. And then you've got the other problem with all of that as well, dating in 2020, which is, sometimes, you've both got different paths or different goals that you want to go down. But it is kind of a difficult one, I suppose, really. I mean, I think that the needs of the masses are far, far exceeding what they used to. And that is, I would argue, that is more from a woman's perspective, but I don't, it's going to vary, right? But from guys, if you look at a lot of time how guys are, a lot of the time, a guy is just happy with what he can get. So, even the guys themselves put themselves at to a lower priority than what they should be, And what do you do with that? Yeah, well, unfortunately, a lot of guys don't do much about it. Hence I'm so pro for self-improvement and stuff like that. You got to work on yourself. You've got to improve yourself, make yourself a better version. That's the whole idea. And I've got to say, finding the sort of right people that you can actually click with and make a connection with, it can be a challenge. I wouldn't say it's impossible, but I think the reason why a lot of guys have sort of just given up and just thought, well, it's best just to concentrate on themselves and just do their own thing and not bother dating at all, because, well, why subject yourself to all that? I mean, realistically, you've got a lot of people, a lot of women with high demands a lot of the time. Again, it does sort of depend on the sort of quality of the girl and also how narcissistic they are. Now sometimes they're not always as bad as that, but sometimes, truth be told, they can be. And it just makes it questionable as to whether it's worth it. The whole relationship and playing the dating game and getting to know someone, and then imagine that you go out with someone, you date them for maybe 6 months or a year, and then you get a little bit more involved, and then before you know it, you might move in with them, and then, as the saying goes, the mask slips. They reveal who they really are, and then it turns out that you might not like that person. You could argue that's a two-way street. Sometimes it could be the guy that, the mask slips on the guy or whatever. But this isn't necessarily what this video is about. But yeah. So dating in 2020, I've got to say, is quite a challenge. It's like, even if you think, sort of like younger generations and that, women that are in their sort of early 20s and mid-20s, again, they've, with respect to a lot of them, I would argue, have got their own issues anyway. Whether they're entitled millennials or whatever, And this is what I did a video a couple of years ago, and I was sort of like, well, you got to kind of like seek out the right one, but it's like, well, how much effort do you put in, and when do you call it, call it quits? When do you bail out? So, as for me, I'm just moseying on, just doing my thing. I think it's the easiest way. And if someone turns up, then someone turns up. There's not a lot else that can be done, really. Anyhow, thanks for listening. Any thoughts, comments, or opinions, feel free to jot them down. To the next one, stay cool, stay free. Peace out.